Do I make a difference in the world? Do any of us?
There are some people who would say no.
There are people who would say we're each a single snowflake in a blizzard, a drop of water in an ocean, just one of 7 billion people in the world. And yet, I want to believe that we can make a difference. To think otherwise means that we're powerless to affect change in the environment around us. And that's a very depressing thought. There have been pivotal moments in world history where a single person has changed the entire course of nations. Who can forget the image following the Tiananmen Square massacre, where a single unarmed man blocked a long row of tanks and brought down an entire army of oppression? But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is everyday people in everyday situations doing tiny things that can have a huge impact on the world. Is that possible, or is it just dogma? Science says it is. After all, what could be tinier than a little butterfly flapping its tiny wings?
The butterfly effect is the name given to a cause and effect relationship where a tiny change at one point leads to a much greater change later on. The term butterfly effect was coined by the mathematician Edward Lorenz in the 60s. He had been doing work in weather prediction and noticed that a very, very small change, just leaving off a tiny decimal fraction, resulted in a completely different weather prediction. He gave a series of talks where eventually they came around to the title of "A Butterfly Flapping Its Wings in Mexico Causes a Tornado in the United States." The idea that there can be mathematical descriptions of everything, including human behavior, is really sort of well accepted in the realms of physics and behavioral scientists. If people think that the butterfly effect can apply to their own behavior, they're more likely to think that their small everyday actions can add up to some larger change and a benefit for humanity.
One of the earliest examples of someone doing little things to improve the world can be found in the story of Abraham. When we meet Abraham, he's doing small acts of kindness, sitting at a crossroads, feeding hungry travelers who pass by. Although later he becomes the father of many nations, many of his actions are not of epic proportion. They're small, simple actions, something any of us can do. Each year, some 800,000 Americans call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in the hope that somebody will simply listen. Sadly, 30,000 will take their lives, but the majority of callers are helped by the person on the other end of the phone who just said a kind word or listened, saving a life.
You know, I don't think you need to have power or money to make a difference. In our organization, we are listeners. We don't give advice, but we're just there to listen. And what we're sharing is our humanity. And we do save lives. Sometimes the smallest thing that you can do is just being there for someone.
As we can see, helping others is not a character trait reserved only for the most holy among us. It's a trait within each of us, and it might even be coded into our DNA. Recent studies indicate that babies as young as 15 months old show signs of wanting to help other babies who may be in trouble. What happens to us when we fulfill our genetic destiny? In the summer of 2011, 9-year-old Rachel Beckwith's birthday wish was to raise $300 for clean water in Africa. When she was killed in a car crash before meeting her goal, the local news ran her story. Within 4 days, some 16,000 people around the country had donated more than $500,000 to fulfill her wish. Because of Rachel's small, selfless act in the northwestern United States, entire villages in Africa will have clean water for generations to come. That is the butterfly effect. Robert F. Kennedy may have said it best.
Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope.
And like a ripple, that hope starts small but grows in an ever-widening circle of influence. Jewish tradition teaches us that God has a personal covenant with each and every one of us, and that we absolutely can make a difference. In fact, we were brought here to this world to make a difference in the life of our families, our communities, our nation, and our planet. This concept is called Tikkun Olam, which means improve the world. Whatever we believe to be the driving force for helping others, a universal law, a thread in our DNA, or a biblical example, the options for action are limitless. And in acting, we affirm who we are, who we want to be, and what kind of world we want to live in. What difference will you make in the world?